Well, hello there, traders and investors. I'm L.A. Little. This is your daily NeoTA wrap. We take a look at these markets, doing it from a neoclassical perspective. That means we're looking at supply and demand on the charts, folks. We're using that information to try and make wiser decisions about how to manage our portfolios. And when I say wiser, what we're talking about is we're using the tape, reading the tape, looking at supply and demand, and we're using the information the market gives us to make decisions. And you're going to see what the market gives you here in a second when we look at the numbers. Let's pop over. I do this show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursday, broadcast at 4, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, archived on YouTube. It's under the channel L.A. Little. And if you want to subscribe to this show or others that are public that I put out, just reach up in the right-hand corner, hit the subscribe button. Anytime I push content, you'll get a notification. As far as these markets, sell-off galore, and it all happened at the top where we identified those areas of supply and demand, right? On the charts, you can see it. If you can pick out what's significant, you can watch the test, you can see what it does, and what it did is it reversed. Now, people are going to tell you tonight that it was because of the Fed, right? Well, yeah, the Fed gave you some information and they created the catalyst to get this sell-off today. Nothing huge, but it was a big reversal intraday. Russell takes it on the chin. The NASDAQ itself also takes it. You had the bonds, well, gold and silver were pretty flat. Bonds picked up and the dollar was flat. Let's look at the charts. So we got reversals out here today. Now I'm doing this, it's roughly, 6 o'clock Eastern almost. I'm doing this early tonight because I'm not going to be around this evening, so I'm not going to have an ending volume numbers on these charts. But what I want you to look at is the way this came up and tested. So first of all, if you remember last week, we were talking about the test of these swing point lows, highs. Okay, so when you go into those, right, you're trying to break over a bearish retest regenerate. In other words, you got under it, now you're coming back into it. Is it going to break out and keep going, or is it going to regenerate to the downside? That's always your question. So that was one area. The second area was the breakdown bars high. This is your breakdown bar. As you go into it, you get close to it. What do? You reverse, you close up underneath the swing point low. I don't know what the volumes are at the end of the day here. We'll look at the SPY and see what that one looks like to give us a something to measure against. So let's pop that one up and see what the numbers look like on it. And I don't have those either yet. And actually, I'm 3, 4, yeah, it's about 6 Eastern. I would have thought I had them by, but I don't have them yet. So I can't really compare the volumes yet. I believe volume from my futures data, volume did look like it was picking up today. So we may have heavier volume on these indexes. And if that's the case, it does say that you can go back up there, but given the way this candle is printed, I don't think that's going to happen. So I don't believe that's something we should be probably fixated on at this point in time. Another important one, NASDAQ, right? Now the NASDAQ broad composite, this is the one that you had to watch. The index is a little thinner, right? It's only 100 stocks. Here you've got the broad composite. Goes up, does the test. We'll see if that test comes in on more volume this or not. I don't think it did. That's a test failure on the breakdown bar at the swing point high. Going to come back and test the other side is what it wants to do. That's on the NASDAQ. On the NDX, you actually did get over again and close back under again. In other words, another failure to get higher. Finally, on the Russell gives it up. Now remember last night, I talked about the Russell was the only one giving us a signal. It was going to try and go higher today. And sure enough, that's what they did, right? They all tried to go higher. But by the end of the day, they ended the other way. Wants to go down here and test these bottoms. Last night I pointed out to you the danger sits on the Russell. You got a swing point low here. You got it on the dailies. You bust that out by the end of the week, you're going to have some problems. That's the indexes. Let's pop over real quick and take a look at the sectors. see what those guys look like. So I'm going to start with the major ones, or actually I'm just going to flip through the major ones. Here's the transports. Transports does a failed attempt to get over its breakdown bar. So that's a failure there. Now the SOX is the one I've been focused on, coming down to test that swing point highs low and the swing point low and the bullish retest regen here. All of those lined up together. It looks to me like it's going to try to bust them out tomorrow. If it does, this has been the sector. This has been the go-to sector, folks, all the way through. If you get the roll here, you're going to get a bigger roll elsewhere. If we look at the XLB, the materials, they also reverse on a swing point high on the breakdown bar. Same thing. So you're seeing it across the board. XLE. Now I pointed out a trade in the XLE. I did a 2-minute trade. You can see that if you haven't seen it, if you want to go back and review it, just pop in here to the videos, and there's a 2-minute or less trade down here, and you can actually check that out for yourself. And what it essentially said was that this had set up an ABCD structure, or was trying to set up an ABCD structure to get it up to this area, which was this breakdown bar. Sure enough, that's where it went this morning. I had the entry on it. I bought it myself, sold out this morning early. What does it do? Reverse down, does its ABCD, completes, or just about completes, and then ends up on the other side. That was the trade there, and it worked to perfection. The one that didn't work to perfection was the financials today. They were trying to do the breakout. I personally got a little excited and tried to capture that game, but lost as a result as it flipped around. Had to spit it back out again. Sometimes trades work, sometimes they don't. This looked like it was going to, when the market looked like it was going to break, these looked like the place to try and make the go-to on that trade. But they do a big bearish engulfing tonight. These are going lower, folks. They're coming back after the lows again. And just like I said on the Russell, you got a swing point low sitting down here. You bust those out, you're going to get much lower prices on these things. And that will take the S&P with it if it does. If you look at the XLI, the industrials, bearish engulfing. If we look at the XLK, now this has been the strongest of the group, not quite a bearish engulfing, but this is the second time that you're seeing the volume come into these things and they fell at the highs. This one fails on the breakdown bar just like the rest. Going to go after the bottom now. I could go through the rest, but I suspect they're all the same. Let's quickly just look at the last two here. Healthcare, bearish engulfing, discretionary, bearish engulfing. So market's going lower tomorrow, folks. That's the way this thing is set up. Tomorrow's Thursday. Chinese Premier is on the spot. You won't get news probably until Friday. Tomorrow they're going to take a little bit of a beating in front of that, it looks like to me. And if they don't get some good news out of that on Friday, some sort of a breakthrough, which is probably not going to happen, I think these markets are going to have a tough week, end of week. That's it for tonight. If you want to know what I do, how I do it, and why you should be part of it, you ought to just give me a little a ping, write me, ask me, what do you do and how do you do it? How can I join? How can I take advantage of it? I'm LA. That's your weekly, not your weekly, that's your daily NeoTA wrap. Have a great one. I'll see you next time. Good night.